Picture this: a world where a single pill could mean the difference between life and death within mere minutes. Now imagine that the very agency entrusted with approving that pill is itself facing a crisis so severe, its very ability to function is under threat. This is not a dystopian fantasy. This is the complicated reality of modern medicine in the 21st century, where breathtaking scientific breakthroughs are colliding with the grinding gears of regulatory bureaucracy. The stakes could not be higher, both for individual patients and for the future of global healthcare itself. Let's zoom out for a moment and set the stage. The United States Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, stands as one of the world's most critical gatekeepers. Since its establishment more than a century ago, in the early 1900s, it has carried the enormous responsibility of safeguarding public health. Every single new drug, medical device, and even much of the food on your plate must pass through its rigorous examination before reaching the public. The agency's role is not just bureaucratic. It is a sacred trust, a vital shield ensuring that only proven, safe, and effective therapies make it to the people who need them most. Without its official stamp of approval, even the most promising medical innovations are left languishing in laboratories, inaccessible to those whose lives hang in the balance. But the world of biotechnology is not standing still. In fact, it is evolving at a pace that would have been unimaginable just a few decades ago. Consider hereditary angioedema, or HAE. A rare yet devastating genetic disorder. For the thousands afflicted, HAE brings sudden, unpredictable swelling attacks that can affect the face, limbs, abdomen, and, most ominously, the throat. Sometimes with fatal consequences if the airway becomes blocked. The root cause lies in a deficiency or malfunction of the C1 inhibitor protein, disrupting the body's immune regulation. For much of the modern era, treating HAE required intravenous infusions or subcutaneous injections. Painful, time-consuming procedures that often involved hospital visits and caused anxiety for patients and families alike. The disease not only threatened physical health, but also weighed heavily on mental well-being, as the specter of a sudden attack loomed over every aspect of daily life. Then, in the summer of the year 2024, a seismic transformation took place. The FDA approved a breakthrough pill named Ekterly, developed by KalVista Pharmaceuticals. This was the first oral therapy ever authorized for the acute treatment of HAE attacks, available to patients as young as 12 years old. The approval was based on the results of the pivotal CONFIDENT clinical trial, in which patients taking Ekterly experienced not only faster symptom relief, but also quicker resolution of attacks compared to both previous standard treatments and to placebo. According to Ben Palaiko, Chief Executive Officer of KalVista, Ekterly enables people to treat attacks the moment symptoms begin, wherever they are, at school, at work, or even while traveling. For an estimated 10,000 Americans living with HAE, this new pill represents so much more than just another medication. It embodies hope, freedom, and the possibility of a normal life unshackled from the constant fear of medical emergency. As Anthony J. Castaldo, president of the United States Hereditary Angioedema Association, observed, Ekterly provides patients and physicians with an important and welcome advance in HAE treatment options. This sentiment is echoed by medical experts like Professor Mark A. Riedel, who highlights how having an oral option empowers patients to treat attacks earlier, in perfect alignment with the latest clinical guidelines. But HAE is only one thread in the rapidly expanding tapestry of immunology and rare disease innovation. Across the landscape, researchers are now targeting conditions once considered untreatable. Take, for example, indolent systemic mastocytosis, a chronic immune disorder marked by the excessive accumulation of mast cells, which can trigger allergic-like reactions, gastrointestinal distress, neurological symptoms, and unrelenting fatigue. Cogent Biosciences has developed bezuclastinib, a precision therapy designed to block the KIT D816-V mutation, a primary driver of mast cell proliferation. In the landmark SUMMIT clinical trial, patients on bezuclastinib showed significant reductions in mast cell activity, which translated into fewer symptoms and a better quality of life. The trial also demonstrated measurable decreases in serum tryptase, a key marker of disease activity, and in the number of mutated cells. This is not just scientific progress. It is a lifeline for patients who had few options before. Jasper Therapeutics, meanwhile, is forging ahead with briquilimab, a monoclonal antibody designed to block the stem cell factor from binding to the CD117, or c-KIT, receptor. By disrupting this interaction, briquilimab aims to deplete abnormal mast cells, offering hope to people suffering from chronic spontaneous urticaria and other mast cell-driven diseases. The company has initiated multiple clinical trials, including the Beacon study, which evaluates the safety and efficacy of multiple dosing regimens. However, the path to therapeutic breakthroughs is rarely smooth. Recently, a manufacturing defect caused briquilimab to lose potency, affecting the results of a mid-stage trial and raising uncertainty about the drug's future. As Ronald Martell, CEO of Jasper, emphasized, achieving deep and durable disease control hinges on resolving these manufacturing challenges and proving efficacy in rigorous, well-controlled studies. Behind each of these cutting-edge therapies lies a race against time, a race to outpace disease progression, meet the demands of patient communities, and, increasingly, to navigate a complex web of regulatory and policy obstacles. As the biotech sector stands ready to deliver a new generation of medicines, a perfect storm is gathering within the very institution tasked with bringing these breakthroughs to the public. In April of the year 2024, the FDA was rocked by a crisis that sent shockwaves through the entire industry. In an unprecedented upheaval, 1 out of every 5 staff members, fully 20% of the agency, were forced out due to a toxic combination of political infighting, top-level leadership changes, and sweeping budget cuts championed by the ruling administration. Since then, the exodus has continued. Morale among the remaining staff has plummeted to historic lows, and the institution's ability to fulfill its core mission is now in jeopardy. As Lizzie Lawrence of Stat News reports, talent has continued to leave since then, tanking morale and hurting the agency's ability to regulate drugs, devices, and food. But the loss is not just about numbers. The FDA is bleeding away decades of institutional memory, technical expertise, and seasoned reviewers whose experience is irreplaceable, especially as new therapies grow ever more complex. Now, imagine a scenario where the FDA's internal crisis deepens. What happens when there are too few scientists and medical experts left to review the tidal wave of new drug applications? Who will scrutinize the mountains of clinical trial data or ensure that pharmaceutical manufacturing plants are complying with safety standards? The risk of rushed decisions, overlooked warning signs, or dangerous errors rises dramatically. In the worst-case scenario, patients, the very people the FDA is meant to protect, could pay the highest price, facing unsafe drugs, delayed treatments, or missed opportunities for life-saving care. And there's more. The FDA is now caught in the crosshairs of escalating geopolitical tension, especially between the United States and China. Over the past several months, the agency has begun to clamp down on biotechnology companies that seek to send living human cells overseas for genetic engineering, particularly to nations labeled as hostile by the United States government. This shift in policy is driven by deep national security concerns, fears of genetic data being misused, biosecurity vulnerabilities, and the risk of sensitive information falling into the wrong hands. These restrictions are already reshaping the flow of innovation across borders. Companies now face longer development timelines, disrupted collaborations, and growing uncertainty about where and how they can conduct research. The once seamless global network of scientific progress is at risk of fragmentation. This internal and external turbulence has profound economic consequences. The stakes are enormous. Take the case of Ekterly. Calvista projects that the on-demand segment of the hay market could expand by 70% to reach approximately $1.2 billion United States dollars by the end of the decade. Financial analysts, such as Stacy Kuhn of TD Cowen, anticipate robust demand for Ekterly, driven by its unmatched convenience and the persistent need for effective oral medications. Yet, every new regulatory bottleneck or policy shift threatens to delay or derail the introduction of transformative therapies. Investors, keenly aware of these risks, are closely monitoring the FDA's every move. Stock prices can swing dramatically in response to regulatory announcements, trial setbacks, or shifts in agency policy. The future of entire biotech companies may hinge on whether their products can clear regulatory hurdles in a timely and predictable manner. The issue of drug cost and patient access further complicates the landscape. Ekterly's wholesale acquisition cost stands at over $16,000 United States dollars per dose, a figure that underscores both the promise and the pitfalls of cutting-edge medicine. While many patients will rely on insurance coverage to absorb some of this expense, those without robust health plans may find themselves priced out of the very treatments that could change or even save their lives. This conundrum is emblematic of a larger trend. As therapies become more sophisticated, they often become more expensive, raising tough questions about equity, access, and the sustainable value of innovation. Real-world data will be essential in determining whether these new drugs deliver long-lasting benefits that justify their price tags, and whether health systems can keep pace with the rising costs of care. Yet even in the midst of crisis, there are glimmers of opportunity, chances for the FDA and for the broader medical enterprise to adapt, renew, and emerge stronger. The agency's recent struggles have catalyzed a nationwide debate among scientists, industry leaders, and policymakers. Should the century-old model of regulatory oversight be reimagined for the 21st century? Could new technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning help fill the regulatory gap? Imagine a world where advanced digital platforms are used to process and analyze clinical trial data in a matter of hours or even minutes, rapidly detecting patterns, inconsistencies, or red flags that might escape the human eye. Such systems could accelerate the pace of drug approvals while simultaneously enhancing safety and oversight. Some states and private organizations are even exploring the idea of creating parallel review boards, alternative regulatory bodies that could step in if the federal process becomes bogged down. While this idea is controversial and raises concerns about consistency, rigor, and public trust, it is a testament to the urgency of the moment. Could a hybrid oversight model blending government, private sector, and technological resources provide a stronger safety net for innovation? Meanwhile, the international context is shifting rapidly. As the United States tightens controls on clinical trials involving the transfer of genetic material abroad, companies are scrambling to ensure their research and supply chains remain compliant. Some may be forced to reshore manufacturing and research operations, investing more heavily in domestic infrastructure to avoid geopolitical pitfalls. This could spur a renaissance in American biotech, with increased investment in homegrown talent, facilities, and partnerships. But the world is watching closely. If the United States stumbles, other regions, particularly Europe and Asia, may seize the initiative. The European Medicines Agency, for instance, has in recent years approved several first-in-class therapies ahead of the FDA, signaling a subtle but important shift in the global balance of regulatory leadership. Countries eager to attract investment and scientific prestige may move quickly to update their own rules, offering faster, more predictable pathways to market for new therapies. The notion of the FDA as the unchallenged gold standard is no longer a given. History offers valuable lessons. The rapid development and distribution of COVID vaccines in the years 2020 and 2021 stands as a landmark achievement, made possible by extraordinary collaboration between regulatory agencies, pharmaceutical companies, and international partners. Accelerated review processes, real-time data sharing, and digital tracking systems enabled hundreds of millions to receive safe and effective vaccines in record time. It was a powerful example of what is possible when the system is pushed to its limits, and when innovation, regulation, and public good are aligned. Yet, the pandemic also exposed vulnerabilities. Regulatory staff were stretched thin, decision-making became highly politicized, and public confidence wavered amid debates about speed versus safety. Today, the stress fractures revealed by that crisis are widening in the face of new political and financial pressures. So what does all of this mean for you? Whether you are a patient waiting for a new therapy, an investor seeking the next big opportunity, a scientist working at the edge of discovery, or simply a concerned citizen, first and foremost, pay close attention to the regulatory process. When you hear about a new drug like Ekterly, bezuclastinib, or briquilimab making headlines, look beyond the surface. Ask probing questions. How was the drug tested? What data was made public? Who reviewed the findings? Transparency, thoroughness, and independent scrutiny are not just bureaucratic technicalities. They are the foundation of trust in modern medicine. Your health, or the health of someone you care about, may depend on these safeguards. For investors, the current crossroads at the FDA is a flashing warning sign. Diversify your portfolios. Focus on companies with transparent and high-quality clinical data, and monitor how firms are building resilient supply chains to withstand regulatory and geopolitical shocks. The biotech revolution will reward those who can adapt swiftly to changing oversight landscapes and who invest in quality and compliance from the outset. For scientists, clinicians, and policy advocates, the FDA's predicament is a call to action. Whether you champion increased funding, smarter hiring practices, or the integration of digital innovation in regulatory review, your voice matters. The next generation of cures and medical miracles will be shaped by the debates and decisions unfolding right now, in government agencies, corporate boardrooms, and even on social media platforms where public sentiment is shaped in real time. Who Who will safeguard drug safety and innovation if the FDA falters? The answer, while complex, is not hopeless. The agency may need to forge new partnerships with technology firms, with independent watchdogs, and with an increasingly engaged public. Collective action, adaptability, and a willingness to rethink old models will be key. Meanwhile, other nations stand ready to step in if American leadership wanes, setting their own rules for the future of medicine. Here's an often overlooked truth. Some of the world's most successful drug launches, including the rapid distribution of COVID vaccines, were made possible by breaking down traditional barriers between regulators, industry, and international partners. The system, while imperfect, has proven capable of extraordinary feats when driven by necessity and collective will. But the lesson is clear. Complacency is dangerous. Without continuous renewal and vigilance, even the most trusted institutions can stumble. We stand at a critical crossroads. The choices made today by policymakers, scientists, business leaders, and everyday citizens will determine the future of medicine for generations to come. The FDA's current crisis is more than a bureaucratic snafu. It is a test of our collective resolve to ensure that safety, science, and innovation can coexist, and that the promise of medical progress is not lost amid political turmoil and institutional inertia. If you care about the future of biotech, drug safety, and the kind of innovation that can reshape lives, do not just watch from the sidelines. Subscribe to this channel, leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below, and join us as we follow every twist and turn of this unfolding global story. Because in the ever-evolving race between science and regulation, everyone, patients, investors, scientists, and citizens, has a stake. The outcome will shape not only the health and well-being of individuals,